Okay, we are live. That's Auto Hoaxer Revolution by Symbia, which you may have heard if you tuned in to the latest Fakeologist, number 963. I put a link in the newsletter and I sent it out on Patreon, so if you follow any of those, you will have received a link, but I'll go ahead and put out a second one along with whatever else Fakeologist attached to it. They had a nice conversation. I think there were a couple of callers, there were a lot of people in the chat, and it was mostly about Symbia's music. And so if you want to know more about the artist, go ahead and listen to that. Let's see here. We are live on, there we go, on X, DLive, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Odyssey, and a slew of audio streams, including Paranormal Radio, where we were numbered 8 out of 13 on their top paranormal stations. I didn't know we were paranormal, but we are apparently. Also on radio.net and TuneIn. Joined by Observing Reality, Matt X, Roxy W. Thank you for joining. By the way, as I said, the Insider would be released September's the first issue. Just put the final touches on it and tested it out as far as the printer. Make sure everything's formatted correctly, and it's ready to go. So I'm going to order this on the 3rd, and I will be receiving it between the 5th and the 8th. It takes about 2 or 3 days from this printer. So my plan is to ship these out on the 9th. I can afford at this time to purchase 30 copies. So the first run is limited to 30 copies. You can get them now if you click the link below. I think I put it there. No, let me drop a link. So if you want to pick up a copy, it is $5. I did all the math on it. I can only ship in the US for now, which is fine. We'll expand as we can. And I may place multiple orders per month. So there's no shortage of content. I put about 33 pages in this one, and I may go longer in future editions, but I'm going to wait until after Labor Day to place my order, just so I have a couple more days in case anything comes out. It could be a meme, it could be a new story, but I want to make sure that I get everything in there. So the final touches will be placed on Sunday night, Monday night. Actually, I'll probably order on Tuesday. Sorry, this Labor Day thing has me pushing it forward. Yeah, 33 pages, maybe a little bit more, but it's all high definition laser print. If you look at the cover, just to give you an idea, it's got the burning penguin cyborg, which is a reference to hot skulls. Disease X is a mind virus, and X is its vector. Helmets on for space junk, the hoaxed assassination attempt on Donald Trump. Skepticism, a cure for mind AIDS. The Insider, 9/1/2024, issue number 1. And this will be a monthly publication. And I decided to include in this the various diagrams and graphics that I'll be using at the conference at the end of the month. Because I was going to order posters or flyers to pass out, but I thought, why not just put them into this? And then I'll just have copies of this available for attendees. So I'll place a mid-month order when I receive the YouTube Super Chat payments. So I'll place a secondary order before the conference, and I'll have these available for attendees. And I'll use this more or less as some of the content in this anyway, as part of the slideshow slash presentation that day. Let's see here. Yeah, print on demand with Lulu wouldn't work. You have to use, there's a few reasons why. The printer company I'm using specializes in tabloids, and they can deliver anywhere in the world within 48 hours. So you can also count on them for the fast delivery. Lulu, you don't have that. But the other side of it is that there's a minimum order, and I can't send direct to customer. I have to have it sent here first, which makes more sense to me because I can include business cards and other things. Okay, so we have 30 copies, and if you look on the channel, on the link there, it'll tell you how many are left. But print on demand is an option for books, but for this thing it's a little different. But I had to insist on the tabloid format for a lot of reasons. So we went with the standard tabloid size And in addition, anything that's in here that is referencing something online, like an audio file or a video, or perhaps a podcast interview, I have the QR code links in there. So let's go ahead and get started. I wanted to play this, so I mentioned it yesterday. Channing Tatum, globe derangement syndrome. This guy was in the movie Fly Me to the Moon, and he was asked by Zoe Kravitz about the GOAT conspiracy theory, the greatest of all time. He said flat Earth, but here's his full take on flat Earth and flat.
You want me to just pick one just to buck the tiger?
GOAT conspiracy theory.
Flat Earth. I mean, it's like, what? The fuck?
Flat
Have you
Earth
ever been on a plane?
Flat Earth is wild.
What the fuck is going on, guys?
Flat Earth is wild.
So stupid. I'm sorry. For you flat earthers out there, go fuck yourself.
Yeah, go F yourself, flat earthers, says Channing Tatum, who just did a movie which I believe is just damage control for NASA. Because NASA is a joke. It's a clown show. It's a reality TV show. And it's actually inadvertently funny. It's a parody of extremism. You got these astronauts doing, well, cosplayers pretending to be spacemen. If you get it, if you can read between the lines. Like, for example, they were doing this celestial immunity in 2020 where the astronauts were up there vaccinating each other. And while they were doing celestial immunity, a piece of space junk punctured the, quote, arm. Because the space station has an arm. It's one of their, I think it's called, is it Canada arm? Anyway, the ISS arm was hit by space junk. A robotic arm called the Canada Arm 2 was hit by orbital debris. So it had a little hole punched right into it, right above where its elbow is. So in other words, as they were doing celestial immunity on board, the ISS got vaxxed. It got a shot in the arm. Let me go ahead and play this short clip here.
All right, Daybreak is back at 6:25, and on today's installment of This Is Why We Can't Have Nice Things, I'm following a story from the International Space Station this morning. Now, it turns out the ISS took a direct hit from some space junk. Now, check
New
out
Kofi
this
shop
picture
sale
from
from
the Canadian
Shannon.
Space Agency. They found a hole punched through the space station's robotic arm. Now, don't worry, the arm is working fine, and the astronauts on board are all safe. But here's something to consider, everyone. NASA tracks over 23,000.
All right, there are 23,000 pieces of space junk, which you never see, if you've noticed. We never see these things. You see a CubeSat, which is like the size of a toaster, and supposedly, according to the witnesses, these are bright lights shooting across the sky, but we never see space junk. 23,000 pieces of space junk, we never see it. That's one lie I haven't heard yet. I haven't heard any NASA proponents lie about seeing space junk. They all lie about seeing satellites. Appreciate the support there, whoever picked up the tabloid. So again, these are going to be ordered on Tuesday, the day after Labor Day. And then I'll receive them between then and the 9th, and or the 8th, and I'll order them on the 9th. Again, this is just limited to 33. I'll expand as necessary, and I'll order more the second half of the month. And if I can make these available outside the US, I will. If you want, you can message me and I'll do a check and see what the shipping would cost. But I don't want to hit anyone with a bill that's like 3 times bigger than the cost of the paper itself, which is insane, but sometimes it's like that. And one other possibility here I have in mind is if I list a handful of these on eBay for international customers, I can likely get better rates. So if you're expecting, or if you'd like copies, you're not in the US, I'm going to make it happen. I'm just trying to make it cost effective. And if that means out of the 30 I order, maybe I'll hang on to 5 for internationals. And I think eBay might be the way. So if you use eBay, I use it for my art generally, but I think I could possibly use it to move things internationally on the cheap. But we do want to keep this paper. I mean, I could just release it digitally, easily. Most of the articles are adapted from paywalled articles on my various blogs and just content we've already put out there and discussed, transcripts. But I want to emphasize the paper because this is our meat-verse representation. This is something that puts us above all of these anonymous shill channels, questionable channels, Trutherville. People in Trutherville are subservient to the mainstream. I'm really recognizing this. That's why they like people like Tucker Carlson. They consider him to be someone who has more clout because he was once accepted by mainstream. Like they're always trying to curry favor as though they want to get accepted by mainstream because they think they are the truth, and it's never going to happen. So those who are still trying to win on the world stage and fight the info war are not part of what we're aggregating here whatsoever. And for the most part, they're voiceless. There's no publication coming out of Trutherville that's going to do what this can do, as you'll see as this thing unrolls. I mean, every single month I'm going to release one of these things, and it's going to move our agenda a little bit more towards what I think our ultimate goal is here. And we're talking about the IPR Press Club, press pass carriers above ground, generating content. I have people submitting me stories, people who want to do stories. And one of the things I've recently set up here, and this is, again, for the future, although I've set it up, but I think it's going to kind of snowball later. IPS Insider Reporter Fund. So I set up a Give, Send, Go for the deep dives. And I have a description here on the page of what the parallel media means. But when we talk about deep dives, those of you in Discord know, we have dozens of stories or areas of interest or persons of interest, organizations of interest that we're going to be doing stories on. And by stories, I mean hiring local cinematographers, booking the interviews, and producing the content. I don't want to give any of the stuff away here because we don't want other people to get our scoops and run with them. But it's all interesting, I can say that. And any support that we get for the reporter fund will be allocated to those reporters who are assigned. So I'm putting that out there now, but this is all going to be advertised in the tabloid itself, and I think it'll justify its own existence. It won't take very long. So right now I'm starting off with 30 copies, but it could easily blow up. It's scalable, which is important. This company I'm working with, which I'm not going to give away all my details here because I think that I want to make sure that we don't get co-opted, but it could scale up. So if we did have 1,000 orders to 10,000 orders, it would not be any different. I'd still have them in 2 to 5 days. It'd be a lot of work on my end, putting things into envelopes, but I do want everything routed through the headquarters. And I am going to save a copy or order copies for everybody who's going to attend on the 28th. Okay, let's go through the notes. We just kind of got started here listening to Channing Tatum, who says that flat earthers just need to ride on a plane. I think everybody here knows what's wrong with that, right? You can't see the curve of the earth at 30,000 feet. It's just physically not possible. There's a term we use for people like this who claim that they have seen the curve when they haven't, because they're bending reality. They're bending the horizon. We already live within a news-bent reality. And he was in a movie, this Fly Me to the Moon, about how NASA makes history, or how they made history by fabricating an event. That's the whole point of this thing. News benders, horizon benders. He's a curvert. He's a curvert. He didn't see the curve. He's just lying. But it's amazing how comfortable many people are with lying, and it's because they're not called out. People will tell stories. They'll add themselves into stories. We used to get a lot of people claiming that they knew somebody who knew somebody at the latest current thing event. And anytime we'd criticize these things, they would come out and advocate for these fake dead people. We don't have so much of that anymore. But some people think they can virtue signal by showing us these headlines and acting like it's real. It's like, no, that's media literalism. It's all just essentially contemporary myth making. And this isn't reality denial, but there's a difference between the real world and what gets mainstream attention, what the collective psyche is focused upon. Like just down the street last night, probably while we were live, there were 4 people murdered during a party. Like 5 people were shot. And then there was 2 people before that two pedestrians on the same street hit by cars. One of them was hit at the same intersection where, when I was working for the morgue, I'd picked up more than one person. Like, there's this one just unlucky spot. But my point, no one here denies reality. If you want to see real shootings, real death, just go to X. It looks nothing like these hyped up propaganda events with political agendas attached. And people who aren't psywar aware, who don't know about psyops, are naive. And the best they can do is ad hominem attacks and act like there's something wrong with you since you don't believe what's on the screen. But it's unacceptable these days, especially now that we're in the age of deep fakes and it's becoming increasingly difficult to tell real from fake and everybody's confused. It's more important than ever to assert that yourself as the arbiter over what you choose to believe.
New coffee shop sale from Diana.
What's up, Radio Nauts? This sounds like you need to get out of that neighborhood. No, I'm not worried about it. I mean, you may have seen the documentary about the city. It's called Breaking Bad. But if you're not in that line of work, if you're not in gangs, you're pretty much safe here. So I'm not victim blaming, but whenever I look at these stories, I'm like, okay, I mean, it's not your fault you lived on that street, but I could have told you that would have happened. Some of it's surprising, though. It seems like there's an escalation. There were 22 or so murders here this last month. And one individual was just going out to stop someone from stealing his truck, and they were like 15 or 16-year-olds. And I think all three of them emptied their clips. Like 26 times he was shot just for trying to stop them from stealing his work truck. Like, that's psycho. And you'll never hear about that on the news. You're going to hear about something involving AR-15 that they can blame on right-wingers and attach to a political agenda. Okay, let's go on here. This was a post that was commented on by Elon Musk. He said, interesting observation. So this is the tweet by Autism Capital. This is something they call the Reich effect. Quote, people who can't defend themselves physically, women and low T men, parse information through a consensus filter as a... Now, this is obviously ridiculous. I just want to say it. This is from 4chan or something. So it's automatically coming from this bizarre parody of masculinity, sexist. Like, these are Andrew Tater tots. These are individuals who look up to Andrew Tate. But anyway, it says people who can't defend themselves physically parse information through the consensus filter as a safety mechanism. They do not ask, is this true? They ask, quote, will others be okay with me thinking this is true? This makes them malleable to brute force manufactured consensus. If every screen they look at says the same thing, they will adopt that position because their brain interprets it as everyone in the tribe believing it. So I disagree with the premise that this is something that's only done by physically weak people or physically unintimidating people, but I do agree that the mass mind is malleable to brute force manufactured consensus. We see it all the time. We're always taking note of the consensus messaging. Or rather, I guess you'd call it concerted messaging, but messages that are meant to totally saturate the collective psyche. Just as an example, the monkey god stuff. A 90-foot tall statue is erected as the WHO declares a monkey virus global emergency, and Bad Monkey comes out on Apple, and then you have millions of people concurrently plugged into a video game where they're playing the role of the Monkey King. And then you have the HBO Chimp Crazy, Planet of the Apes, all kinds of ape stuff just thrown out there all at once, where it's impossible to ignore it. They did the same thing last year with Taylor Swift. Whether or not you listen to Taylor Swift, they made sure that she was stamped in your mind, that you have this after... I could close my eyes, I have an after image of Taylor Swift's face from all the magazine covers. And as someone who's not a Swiftie, that should tell you that their saturation is total. It's absolute. There's no escaping it. I caught that mind virus. They infected us all with it. But to go on here, about this post here, it says that those who are processing their information through the consensus as a safety mechanism, it's because they want to believe what the tribe believes. But here's their point. They say only high T alpha males and A neurotypical people, autists, are free to parse new information with an objective, is this true filter. So they're suggesting the only people who can see through the matrix are alphas and autistic people. This is just, honestly, it's stupid. Elon Musk said it's an interesting observation. No, it's actually pretty much bullshit. But they do have some points here. But their whole purpose was to say, this is why a republic of high status males is best for decision making. The only reason I found this worth noting here is that there's some semi-lucidity. This person's sort of aware of something here, that most people do adopt the consensus trance out of fear. And I kind of alluded to this the other night when I was mentioning the late night talk show hosts and how their jokes aren't even funny, these government gestures, but they put ideas out there so you can hear how the mob, how the consensus is reacting. Oh, they hiss when they see that face. They cheer when they see that face. I will hiss and cheer accordingly. This is 1984's 2 Minutes of Hate. It's part of the programming. But the programming is based on the premise that everyone is trying to balance themselves out with the mob. They're trying to reach the same consensus trance and not stand out, which is true for the most part. And that's true with alt media and Woketown. We talk about this a lot, but it's worth mentioning that the normie trance isn't good enough for everybody. Some people see through it, but they end up going into a secondary consensus. And that's my issue with Trutherville. It's a consensus. They all believe the same crap. Now, we, the parallel media, this third branch, we do not have a consensus of beliefs. It's not based on that. It's just that we have the same perspective. But we're not all operating on the premise that you must believe A through Z to be a part of our club. Because that's true to be a mainstreamer. That's true to be a woker. And that's true to be a truther. You can't be a truther if you're not afraid of HARP and Bill Gates. It's just orthodoxies. We don't have those because, again, skepticism isn't a belief system. You know, like science isn't a belief system. It's not supposed to be. It's meant to be a methodology rooted in skepticism. But it's become a religion. Capital S scientism. But skepticism, as we are practicing it, isn't a collection of beliefs. It's really just a methodology. And the public doesn't have a methodology. They have a open portal, their mind to that screen, and it just dumps whatever the state wants into their subconscious. Barely even, it's like osmosis. They don't even have to process it consciously. They're just boofing the fake news. Dwayne Abith says it's more likely to be mentally lazy people who do this than physically weak. Yeah, exactly. I totally disagree with their idea here. Or that it's like high alpha males that see through the matrix. That's just nonsense. But Musk is like, makes sense to me. Musk is a Poe. He's a parody of extremism. I think that in reality, behind closed doors, his opinions and his political leanings and everything else are likely aligned with Grimes. You know, Grimes, who's talking about using AI to fix communism. I don't think that he's truly a right-wing 4chan shit poster. I don't think he's a conspiracy theorist because obviously he's so high up in the pyramid, the Lie World Order pyramid structure. He's in the capstone. He's that high up to where he's not unaware of the fact that the majority live in a simulation. That's why he kind of smirks. He's got that duper's delight whenever he talks about how we might move into a simulation, because he knows very well that the entirety of mankind already exists in one. And it's not the simulation of nothing is real. It's the simulation of our consensus trance, the consensus that everyone wants to adhere to out of fear of being outgrouped. That model doesn't match the territory. Now, it matches it in most of the ways that you're going to interact with it. So you're not going to notice the difference. Like, for example, you're never going to go high enough to notice there's not a curve. You're just going to go with the model. Okay, let's see. Going through my notes, we talked about... this is the next one. Donnie Darkened. Donnie Darkened used to be Donnie Darkened. Now he's Donnie Discerned. He's one of these individuals who has really honed in on this Trump head wound stuff. And he was on Tim Pool, but he's never shown his face. And oftentimes, I wonder if he's not just a Chat GPT creation. Just sounds like it. But he says, I've come across this post and many others like it, suggesting that Donald Trump is the bloodline of Christ, because he traces back to the bloodline of David. And there are numerous coincidences, like the inauguration being 70 years, 7 months, and 70 days after his birth, and Israel being founded 700 days after his birth. His grandmother's surname was Christ. Yeah, and she died on 6/6/66. He goes on to say, I see these differently. He doesn't believe that Trump is Jesus. He says, the idea that Trump's bloodline could go back to Jesus makes me more convinced he is the Antichrist who will deceive many and lead to a great falling away that the Bible warns us about. So Donnie Darkin sees these QAnoners who believe that Donald Trump is Christ as going in the wrong direction. I find all of this to be very fishy, because if he really believed this, why is he hiding behind some avatar? Why is he anonymous? You would think this is the most important information in the world, but no, not that important. But he's using it to engagement bait a lot of truthers. But to his credit, he is right. If Trump is one of the two, it's going to be Antichrist. Mike Rothschild just commented on that tweet that Elon Musk said was an interesting observation. He said, it's not interesting. It's a bargain bin 4chan brain dropping by an anonymous idiot who makes the I studied the blade guy look like a nuclear physicist. I agree with Mike Rothschild, even though he's totally brainwashed and says that predictive programming doesn't exist. That is reality denialism. He says it doesn't exist. He doesn't say, yeah, there's a large body of eerie coincidences, nor does he refute them. He doesn't propose an argument that might, I guess, undermine or maybe even debunk the very concept, but rather he just says with a hand wave, it doesn't exist. Well, it does exist, but he can't process it because he's so stuck in Normieville. And all of his skepticism, Mike Rothschild's this big anti-conspiracy theorist guy, all of his skepticism is directed at Trutherville. He doesn't know about auto-hoaxing, and he assumes his position is the correct one. Ted Stryker says, what happened to the pilot guy who used to call? He's still around. He invited me over there. I could go fly over to where he's at, and then he'll take me on a flight, and I could interview him in flight. So that's one example of an IPR deep dive. If the IPR reporter fund accrues a bit of money, then I have that option of, well, we could send somebody somewhere to do an interview, and Quincy has offered to take me up, and I can look and see if there's any curve. We can have a conversation about it while we're up there. I could probably get him to call back. In fact, I have his number, so I'll put him on my list, because I should probably interview him for the next issue. See, I'd put him on the cover. One of the marketing strategies here is to find interview guests who have a platform, who have some interesting story, and then put them on the cover, and then they become promoters. And I'll give them copies to sign and hand out. But yeah, I'd like to get Quincy on the cover, because he's done a number of interviews with dishonest glurfs, globe derangement syndrome types like McToon. McToon, who's never seen the ISS, admittedly, but he'll chastise you if you've never seen it. Strangest thing. It's beyond hypocrisy. It's I don't know what deranged. It's deranged. Dave J just tweeted, cheers Symbia for being a Dave J superfan. Yeah, Dave J was brought up on Fakeologist, and she did mention that he is a troll. And he is, and he takes pride in it. Half troll, half man. And I'm only certain about the former half. But anyway, he's a regular on the Fakeologist. He does make some interesting observations, but he's not an auto-hoaxer. He's an anti-vaxxer. And I'm anti-vax. Okay, here's the next topic. This is a type of a psyop, which I think I'm going to call these rumor-based psyops. So I first noticed this thing back when people used to talk about FEMA coffins. And Jade Helm was this thing where there were all kinds of rumors going around saying, hey, look, here's a video of this train going across the country, and there's tanks on it. Oh, look, there's a lot of military cars driving it. Look at all these troops marching. So it seems like every summer, the truthers would freak out because they see military traveling all the time. And like, okay, what's going on? There's a war happening. It's civil war. And these rumors would spread, and then eventually somebody would figure out, oh no, these are Army Reserves, National Guard, doing their annual 2-week drill. But the rumors spread. People would see somebody with their phone recording a train with tanks on it, and they would start spreading this rumor. And it kind of reminds me of, and this is like a common thing with these various psyops, a lot of them are just spread by rumors, and nothing actually has to happen. But people like to spread rumors because, I guess, clout, they get the consensus kind of on the same sheet. They want to make sure everyone's awake to what's coming, crying wolf, etc. But there's something similar that's happening with motorcycles. So right now, you have a lot of truthers, and I'm talking just people like this guy here has 152,000 subscribers. You have influencers like Sam Tripoli, hugely popular people in Trutherville. He says, is this how the Civil War starts? And they're all sharing these images of motorcyclists on the freeway. So they're saying, is this how Civil War starts? Average normal guy says, I can confirm Hell's Angels headed to Aurora, Colorado. Stay strong, America. So I found a bunch of accounts posting last night, yesterday, about how the Hell's Angels, here's Pismo says, holy smokes, bikers are on the way to Aurora, Colorado to help clean up the apartments. So these big accounts are talking about how these motorcyclists are heading down to Aurora to deal with the Venezuelan gangs. The Daddy Twin says, what's happening with the Hells Angels? Let me know if you think the people in Aurora would welcome the help. How will the Hells Angels evict them? Or will the government step in first? So let me go ahead and play a clip of one of these rumor mongers.
Angels on their way, not on their way. What's the dirt? Give us the tea. Let's see what's trending all around Twitter. Take a look.
I've seen multiple videos in the last 10 minutes that are showing the Hells Angels heading to Colorado, to Aurora.
That's Candy Paint Mama here. Now take a look at this one.
I don't know how many of y'all know what's going on in Colorado, but rumor has it the HAs, Hells Angels, are on their way now.
A lot of people say they're on their way. They're headed there now. A lot of people say it's false. And I'm thinking like the J6ers, right? I'm thinking that if the Hells Angels were to go there and get involved, and they were to hurt some people, bang some people up, would they throw the book at them like the J6ers?
Okay, now he goes on for several minutes about what would happen if. Then you have this guy who seems like some Sons of Anarchy wannabe actor, and he's talking about how big of a deal this is. And he's got this central casting. This is like if you try to hire an actor to play a Hell's Angel or a Sons of Anarchy motorcycle gang stereotype, it'd be someone like this.
They mess with one of their own, like this 1% biker just explained to us.
Rome, that'd be the only reason they'd do it.
Right.
And if that happened,
Examples.
on their way there, and I'm not HA at all, it's because somebody messed with one of their own. That'd be the only reason they'd do it.
Right.
And if that
Okay, so there's all this talk about how Hell's Angels are so tough, they're going to beat the Venezuelan gangs. And I've also compared this, I was thinking about how during 2020, the QAnoners would say to me, oh, right now, the Air Force is underground, Space Force is underground in the tunnels, fighting the mole people and rescuing the children, from the adrenochrome laboratories and the reptilians, and then the blue avians are fighting them, and then the F-16s dropped a bunker buster and killed 50,000 Chinese troops that were going through a tunnel from Canada into Michigan. And they would have all these stories about how, oh, we saw a C-140. We saw some military jets. And they would tweet it like crazy, but 50,000 likes on it. It's like, this is just some Black Hawk helicopters. But every time the QAnoners would see helicopters, they would think, oh, it's JFK Jr. and he's fighting the deep state. They just want to believe so bad. They're LARPing. This is LARPing. It's kind of sad. Here's another account. The Hells Angels have arrived. They just rode 100 deep past my window on I-225. So you have these truthers who are like waving out their windows, throwing flowers or whatever. Like these are like some kind of heroes going to save them. They're all just really overreacting. So I'm wondering, well, what's going on here? So I do a search, motorcycle rally, and it turns out that there's a huge motorcycle rally right now in Durango, Colorado. It took me about 8 seconds to figure that out. The Four Corners Motorcycle Rally returns to Durango. Sturgis Motorcycle Rally. So let's just take out our Occam's razor. What's more likely, that all these motorcyclists were going to Durango for the rally, or the Hells Angels are riding out to stop the Venezuelan gang members from taking over apartment complexes in Aurora, which might not even be happening? Rumor-based psyops, and this tells you one thing. It will be so easy to fake a civil war. All they need to do is start a good rumor. The rumor of the war will suffice. That's all they really need. Catching up on comments. Mizell says, let me know the ETA for Hell's Angels and I'll go watch. Yeah, the Hell's Angels are going to be in Durango, and you can go over there. Well, they're just motorcyclists. We don't even know that these are Hell's Angels. Mizell says, I'll wear my press pass and interview them. Messianic Charlatan says, Sam Tripoli is MS Search from the rap group Third Base. Tripoli equals third base. Let me take a look. Have you ever heard Sam Tripoli rapping? I do see a resemblance here. In fact, I think you might be right. Sam Tripoli. Hyping up rumors that the Hells Angels are going to save you from the Venezuelan gangbangers. Meanwhile, the Crips and the Bloods are going to cry out for building the wall. They're going to vote Trump because they don't want the Venezuelans taking their jobs. Ollie Goering says, fake gravelly voice. Oh yeah, the Hells Angel voice. Yeah, that was like Alex Jones's bunker voice, or Richie from Boston's chemtrail lung voice. He's got this vocal fry from chemtrails when it's really just his vape pen, because he doesn't roll down his windows in his Jeep when he's driving around the country spotting chemtrails. Mazel says, there's already bike gangs here. Why do we need the HA? I think it's funny how quick they are to believe. Observing Reality says, I always wondered what his side role was. Yeah. Wouldn't surprise me. Who was Stu Peters? I'm sorry, Stu Peters. Stu Peters was a rapper for some time, and then he became, oh yeah, that's right, he was Focus. F-O-K-I-S-S. So I guess it's like Focus. Okay, Focus, Long Road. This is back when he was appropriating black culture before he hated blacks. This is Stu Peters, back when he was Focus.
So happy. It's miserable out here. Call me the black sheep. Big beats, big...
Nobody's calling you the black sheep, Stu Peters. This is hilariously bad. But thankfully, the feds hired him because he probably did something terrible, and they gave him a deal. You can spread misinformation on X, or you can go to jail.
Sales, big dreams come true, and I never suck dick and ass in the back. No, you right, I ain't never gonna be flash.
Okay. Totally ridiculous and obviously untrue lyrics here. That's Focus. The only rapper I can think of right now more ridiculous on the MAGA side is the guy with the 47 tattoo and the golden Trump necklace. I think his name is Horatio Blow. And he's always talking about how he's being oppressed and how he's being censored. It's like, I don't think anybody's censoring you. I just don't think anybody wants to listen to you. And I'm not trying to be cruel about it, but this is just the very embodiment of cringe. And I'm pretty sure that's a 47 tattooed on his head. And if Joe Biden dies, he better keep his fingers crossed that it doesn't happen before the inauguration, because then Kamala gets 47. See, he's screwed. Dwayne Obith says, hey guys, Richie from Boston here, but I digress. Ooh, nice. Handsome Truth was an ex-rapper who turned into a neo-Nazi shill. Same story as Stu Peters. Now that's interesting. There's some kind of connection here. So Handsome Truth, HT, is the guy from, I think it's Goyim Defense League. They used to troll me on BitChute and a few other pages. But Handsome Truth was like an Alex Stein type, as far as like just kind of a cringe pseudo-comedian thing. He's funny to his followers, I guess. But he was the one who put the sign that said, Ye is right, after Ye went on his anti-Semitic tirades. That's where you might know him from. But totally unbelievable. He was a rapper, then he became... See, I actually think that Handsome Truth works for the ADL. I think a lot of the big anti-Semites are actually being paid by... I think they're controlled opposition. That's right, his rapper name was Shuby DeWop. How embarrassing. Shuby DeWop. That is so terrible. American Man Whore, 2013. Hormones, 2015. And these are the individuals who claim to be traditional values, America first. They act like they're paragons of moral virtue, and this is where we need to go. But then you see them contradicting their own values. So this is Handsome Truth. And I remember this one because he was talking to children, like young kids on live streams, pretending to be an advocate for putting, I guess, adult literature in schools. So he's trying to do some kind of a parody, sort of like how, what's his name? Alex Stein, because he's never going to go away. Alex Stein would dress up in drag in order to mock drag people. Same thing with Steven Crowder. There's a point where they're more engaged in being the center of focus, and they're basically parodies of extremism. There's no way they really believe it. Okay, continuing. What a terrible tangent to go down. MAGA rappers. We got into this because Sam Tripoli also is MS Search, an American rapper and music executive, according to Messianic Charlatan. We have to look into this. It looks like he might have lost a little weight, but it could be him. Back to my notes. Lou on CNN. We have something made by non-humans. Now, I want to point this out too, before I even play this. Left wing loves aliens, both illegal and extraterrestrial. Right wing is terrified of aliens, both illegal and extraterrestrial. Last night I was playing a clip where Tucker Carlson said that aliens are demons and they made deals with our government, which makes perfect sense because right wing is afraid of the government and afraid of aliens. So this story here, I haven't even listened to this yet. It's on CNN. So I can tell you, based on the bifurcation of the interpretation of the alien phenomenon, and this goes with extraterrestrial and migrants, I can tell you right now, it's a left-leaning outlet. This isn't going to be something about how aliens are demons. It's going to be something about how they have so much to teach us. They have technology that we could use.
Written that the U.S. government has been operating a decades-long, I got to read this, crash retrieval program for these UAP, that biological remains of non-human origin have been found. Are you telling me that aliens are real?
Well, what I'm saying, Laura, first of all, thank you very much for having me on your show. What I'm saying is that we have something that is made by non-humans. So whatever that means, right? We're talking about aliens in the vernacular sense, or are we talking about something that's been here all along?
You have written.
So the take on it is simply that the left believes that aliens are kind of like angels, but they represent man in the future. Future after we've evolved ourselves past the singularity, technology has accelerated our evolution, we're multiplanetary. They see it as progress. So the ultimate in human progress, according to the progressives, is alien. When we've ascended above the Earth, its carbon footprint, we've defeated gravity, we're ascended beings. And the technology as savior is a facet of the left-wing ideology, whereas the right, they still believe in God and angels, which is why they fear aliens. This is where you have this split between traditional value, let's go back to nature, drink raw milk, get off the grid, right wing, this idealized past, and then the left is all about this idealized future, embrace new technology, and technology is our savior. They have the injectable Eucharist, mainstream media scientism as a priesthood. You have the priests of scientism. You have the space as the new heaven. But the left is definitely pro-alien, and they want this tech. They want the aliens to arrive and share with us. But the other side's ready to attack them. Dirk says, Tim, tonight I was going to watch your podcast. Today it was gone. Do you erase some of your shows, or was it accidentally erased? I would say go to ips.monster. I post the archives there. Because sometimes on my main YouTube channel, I do have to pull these things. And in some countries, they do get blocked if I share content from some company. It depends on who it is. But if it's like, if I share a clip from CNN, sometimes it'll get flagged. But for the most part, you can go to ips.monster or go to, BitChute/Infinite Plane Society, picks up all the archives. Same thing goes for Patreon. Patreon and ips.monster are kind of the same thing. With each of these, you get live stream, notifications, and archives. The archives at ips.monster have transcripts. So just to give you an example, let's go look at the latest one. Actually, the latest one's going to post at midnight. But if you go over and you click on archives, you'll see it has the link to YouTube. You can play it right there, and then it has the transcripts. There you go, ips.monster. There's 3 hours of transcripts here. And I'm using this tool to add content to the Insider. So if there's a night where a live stream had a particularly interesting caller, I could just copy and paste that call into an article, link to the archive, keep the tabloid interconnected, reciprocal with the online content. Dirk says, I live in Canada. They're doing some weird stuff here. I think they're kind of known for that. Ollie Goering says, hand pan music makes your ribs wobble on the inside. Oh, yes. And if you like that, check out Chief Crow's music. A lot of interesting styles, different stylings of music. Ian Miles Cheong, another one of these weirdly over-promoted X posters, says the masks are off. They want to arrest Musk. And Musk says, I've known this for a while. This is such theater. They wouldn't arrest him because he knows all of NASA's secrets. He knows about the psyops. This is fiction. This is a reality TV show. This is where they merge real and fake. Musk is an interesting character in this entire thing for that reason, because the mainstream interpretation of him is just not the truth. So you're looking at a walking, talking psyop. Elon Musk is a psyop. Ian says, they've gotten bold. With the arrest of Pavel Durov and the complete crackdown on free speech in UK, Brazil, and Germany, they're pushing things farther than they ever have been. This is Ian Cheong, just fear-mongering. Like, yeah, Musk is such a martyr. Now, the other night, someone asked what happened to all the swattings, because right-wingers used to fake swattings when they needed attention. The next thing is getting arrested. And it might actually behoove Musk to toe that line and get arrested. It would elevate his credibility. Here's an opinion piece by Robert Reich. Elon Musk is out of control. How to rein him in. Now, I want to point out one more time that we've been talking about this disease X. That X would be the vector for the mind virus that disease X is actually referring to when the WHO said there's this coming disease. The placeholder name is disease X. And that's why we're seeing this. We are real-time observing the lockdown of the internet to curtail the spread of disease X, to isolate these super spreaders, censor them, block them, cut them off from the commons. That's where we're at right now. Elon Musk is out of control. How to rein him in. So this guy, Robert Reich, is obviously not in the know, because he's not talking about Musk as a propagandist, part of this operation to fake our worldview for the purposes of controlling humanity. Now, this is a very superficial, surface level, blue pill take, but this is where most people are. He says, quote, regulators around the world should threaten Musk with arrest if he doesn't stop disseminating lies and hate on X. Global regulators may be on the way to doing this, as evidenced by the 24 August arrest in France of Pavel Durov from Deprogram. That's what they call it now. But what he said is here. He says, this is Robert Reich, who founded Telegram, which French authorities have found complicit in hate crimes and disinformation. Like Musk, Durov has styled himself as a free speech absolutist. So we're witnessing a psyop. But the reason that he's doing this, Musk isn't fighting free speech. He's providing a pretext for the destruction of free speech. He's a saboteur. He's burning it down. He's actually doing everything intentionally to get this response. So the readers of Robert Reich will agree. And if you don't believe me, just think about how easily people went into crisis mode in 2020 and just complied with everything. Outside of the truther box, most people complied because they believed in it. And the same is going to be true when they say mind viruses are causing outbreaks of the rage virus. Mind viruses are causing rage, spontaneous outbursts of rage. It's radicalizing people. It's turning right-wingers into terrorists. Yeah, people are going to believe it. And they're going to say, we must do something. Mask our minds. Vax our minds. Update from space. Boeing might not get Starliner working before the space station is destroyed. These headlines are getting increasingly dire. And there's something else too. So the Starliner is hearing some kind of noises in space. Kind of a new twist. It says, there's a strange noise coming through the speaker, said Butch Wilmore. There was a mysterious pulsing sound inside the spacecraft. Boeing Starliner will return home on September 6th uncrewed and 12 weeks late. NASA confirmed it's going to land autonomously. So they're stranded, but they're up there hearing weird noises. The Starliner spacecraft has started to emit strange noises emanating from the speaker, prompting them to ask Mission Control to investigate. And if you recall, there was this incident a couple months ago where there were these distress signals being sent out, but then they said it was just a drill. Strange sonar-like noises. Now, what does that mean? Sonar-like noises from the capsule. Reason still unknown. There was a report from China's first manned mission of a knocking on an iron bucket with a wooden hammer sound. Now, how do sounds carry in space? Like, I saw this video of this astronaut hammering a spike into the moon, and you could hear the hammer hitting the spike. And I was told that shouldn't be possible on the moon. But I'm like, well, they weren't on the moon. They were on a sound stage. Likely in Vegas or something, like beneath the ground possibly. Wherever it was on Earth. Elephant says, Tim, don't you think people are incredibly bored? They cling to these psyops to have excitement in their lives. To be honest, most people don't even know what's going on. I can talk to any of my blue pill friends and they have no clue about the latest school shooting, latest bombing. They just assume it's all true. They're misinformed. So the consensus exists in a state of being misinformed. That's the rule. No one's informed unless they're high up in the programming class or they're one of us. But among the misinformed, most of them aren't paying attention. They have lives outside of this, which is kind of a good thing, but it's also a collective blind spot. So they're living their lives under misinformed. So if something big happens, like a nuke, then they will become misinformed. They'll catch up on the misinformation so they know how to react. So no, they're not bored. They're apathetic and doing their own thing. They're not even paying attention. The people who are paying attention too closely tend to go woke or red pill, depending on their political predilection, left or right. So they're either apathetic and non-engaged or hyper-engaged. Dwayne R. Birth says, the people who cling to the psyops and insist they're real are Trutherville residents. Yeah, actually, I think Synchromorpheus described them as, quote, it's realers. Oh, it's real. Trump was really shot. Oh, yeah, they pierced his ear with an AR-15 and killed a fireman. Yeah, I'm sure that was real. Based on what evidence? I saw it on CNN. I saw it on TV. I saw it on Fox. The news wouldn't lie. Like, when did they become honest? Suggesting that the next major terror event is real. Like, let's say there's a big shooting at some movie theater and terrorists did it and they screamed Allah Akbar or Maga Akbar. Like some right-wingers shoot up a movie theater. You'll have a lot of truthers who will say, well, maybe it's real. Let's look into it and then find out. And I'm like, no, it's fake until proven real by the facts. You can't give them that base assumption. You can't give them the benefit of the doubt. That would be like saying the next moon landing is going to be real. No, Apollo 11 was fake. Every subsequent moon landing has been faked. This thing, it never became real. But this is tricky because the special effects are getting better. The special effects are improving to the point where there's going to be a point where I think they're going to be able to jettison all the bad special effects. They're going to say, yeah, Apollo 11 was fake, but we had to trick the Russians, just like that rom-com movie, Fly Me to the Moon. So F you flat earthers, as Channing Tatum said, because everything's real now. Just look at the screen. I do have to leave here in a few minutes. I can't take calls tonight, unfortunately, but tomorrow I'll have a lot more time. I want to say thanks to everyone who has been supporting the channel and those of you who supported the IPS Insider September issue. I've had a tabloid template ready to go. I've been developing this for some time. It's taken a little longer, but I just wanted to make sure that it coincided with the first IPS Cyber Symposium, the Auto Hoax Con, #1. So everything in the IPS Insider is from our perspective. I'm including the Auto Hoax lexicon in this one, among other things. HG says, thank God I caught IPS live. My mind aids was beginning to act up and I was in danger of becoming a full-blown lobotomite. Dirk says, it's like my daughter. She pays zero attention like almost all 30-year-olds in China. You know, it's kind of an interesting conundrum here because you can't wake them up if they're not even paying attention to what they're supposed to believe. So like, oh, this is fake. Well, they don't even know enough. They're like low information believers. And the way that you become a non-believer is by getting more information about it that debunks it. So it's kind of ironic that those of us who are saying these things are fake know more about these things than the people who say that they're real. We are informed disbelievers, and our informed disbelief weighs more than low information belief. And we've pushed it back. We pushed the burden of proof back on them. Elephant Tusk says the world would be a safer place if Anthony Fauci was allowed to give everyone free prostate exams. Look, I think that Anthony Fauci and Bill Gates and Elon Musk are world stage characters. And if you're triggered by Elon Musk, you're triggered by the psyops. You're basically in the alternate reality game. Like, you shouldn't be triggered by Elon Musk. And I think you can agree with me on this, because you know how much of what he's involved in is fake. So why would you ascribe reality to Bill Gates? You got the billionaires that are presented as saviors and villains, depending on where you stand on the political spectrum. I'm on the left, so Bill Gates is my savior, Elon Musk is the devil. I'm on the right, so Elon Musk is my savior, Bill Gates is the devil. So if you're in here saying that Fauci is some kind of a bad guy, then where does that place you? It places you in the MSM box in the center of Trutherville. That's the perspective that opinion comes from. The off-world stage perspective wouldn't see Anthony Fauci as a threat any more than Musk or Gates or Klaus Schwab or any of these characters they put out there. Dirk says, I have friends that realize we live on a flat earth yet believe the BS Trump shooting. I have an article on the Trump shooting in the Insider. Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, because Trump came in and appealed to the conspiracy theorists. And at that time, we were starting to aggregate a large number of auto hoaxers. And then Trump gets into office. We had the Vegas shooting. And a lot of people said, I believe Q. Trump believes us. He's on our side. Trump's going to expose it all. And they marched over that cliff with Trump. They followed that Pied Piper. So now they went so far as to question NASA, see through the false cosmology, recognize the capacity for fakery in the media, but then they got stuck on believing anything having to do with Trump. Now suddenly the news is real again. HG says, I wouldn't trust Fauci's finger. Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm a Harris voter, so don't listen to me about Fauci. All right, this has been great. I wish I had more time. We'll cover a lot more tomorrow. Earlier tonight, there was a live stream on Fakeologist that I mentioned. Symbia was on there. I'm going to put a link there. If you haven't heard it, it'd be worth listening to, because it kind of goes in a different direction. You're just talking about the music, what goes into it. I thought it was a very interesting and entertaining conversation, so I'm going to put that in the notes tonight. Again, on Fakeologist. I'll probably try to catch up with him soon as well, as I'm going to try to coordinate with him to record something for AutoHoaxCon later this month. I've already recorded something with Armin Ree, since he won't be able to make it that day, but we do want his participation. Okay, we'll continue this conversation tomorrow. Thanks for all of your comments. This is AutoHoax, Chief Crow, and the Flat Earth Worms. Have a great evening. Archives will be sent out shortly.
dream. You know I ain't got time, baby, for another crisis actor with soulless eyes.
My buddy, my buddy and me.
Telecommunications Act of 1996.
96, y'all.